Hello everyone, welcome to our video. Okay, in these occasions and in this change, we would like to explain and discuss about what is hypothesis. In this material, there are 5 points that we must to explain. That is, first, the concept of hypothesis, and the second is type of hypothesis, and the third is the principle of formulating a hypothesis. The fourth is hypothesis formulation technique, and the last is operational definitions or key terms. But before we are going to discuss about this topic, let me introduce about this group before. The first is me, Ivana Yolanda, as a presenter and the speaker 1, and the second is Putri Lenggogeni as a speaker 2, and the last is Nurul Septiani as the speaker 3. And don't forget, we also say thanks to Miss Yulmiati MPD as a lecturer in this lesson. Well, to shorten the time, let's start it. Start to discuss about the concept of hypothesis. The concept of hypothesis have 4 points. That is definitions, purpose, functions, and the last is characteristic. Well, let me start with the definitions. In turn, hypothesis based on the 2 words, that is hypo, it means tentative or subjective to verifications, and thesis, it means that statement about solutions of a problem. According to Grinnell in 1988, hypothesis is written in such a way that it can be proven or disproven by valid and reliable data. So in general, hypothesis is the compositions of some variable which have some specific positions or rule of the variables, i.e. to be verified empirically. Next, the purpose of hypothesis. The purpose of hypothesis is to make it easier for us to write the better test. Then, the functions of hypothesis. There is 4 points, and the first is enhance the objectivity and purpose of a research work. The second is provide a research with focus and tells us about the specific scope of a research problem to investigate. The third is help us in prioritizing data collections, hence providing focus to the study. And the last is enable to formulations of theory for us to specifically conclude what is true and what is not. And the last point is about the characteristic of a good hypothesis. The first is hypothesis should be conceptual clear. It means that the concept used in the hypothesis should be clearly defined, not only formally, but also, if possibly, and operationally. The second is, hypothesis should be specific. To figure or value judgmental terms should be used in formulations of a hypothesis. It should be specifically state the relationship between the variables, and it should include a clear statement of all the predictions and operations. The third is hypothesis should be empirically testable. It should have empirical reference so that it will be possible to deduce certain logical deductions and inferences about it. And fourth is hypothesis should be related to available technique. We may ignorance of the available technique make him or her weak in formulating a workable hypothesis. And the last is hypothesis should be related to a body of theory or some theoretical orientations. A hypothesis, if tested, helps to qualify, support, correct, or refute an existing theory only if it is related to some theory or have some theoretical orientation.
Okay, next, type of hypothesis. There are two types of hypothesis. The first one is directional. This may imply that the researcher is intellectually committed to a particular outcome. They specify the expected direction of the relationship between variables. The researcher predicts not only the existence of a relationship but also its nature. Scientific journal articles generally use this form of hypothesis. The investigator bases this hypothesis on the trends apparent from previous research on this topic. Considering the example, a researcher may state the hypothesis as high school students who participate in extracurricular activities have a lower GPA than those who do not participate in such activities. Such hypotheses provide a definite direction to the prediction. And the second one is non-directional. This form of hypothesis is used in studies where there is no sufficient past research on which to base a prediction, to not stipulate the direction of the relationship. Continuing with the same example from the directional hypothesis, a non-directional hypothesis would read the academic performance of high school students is related to their participation in extracurricular activities. Okay, next, the principle of formulating a hypothesis. There are three principles of formulating a hypothesis. The first one is synthetic statements. It can either be true or false. Experimental hypothesis must be synthetic statement. For example, hungry students read slowly. It could be proven true or false. And we have to remember that we have to avoid the non-synthetic statement. But how can we know if the statement is synthetic or not? Okay, the first one is analytic statement. One of that is always true. The second is contradictory statement. It is statement with elements that oppose each other. They are always false. And the second one is testable statements. It is for manipulating antecedent conditions and measuring the resulting behavior must exist. For example, if dogs' muscles twitch when they sleep, then they are dreaming. Okay, the last one is predictable statement driven by theoretical guidance and or prior evidence. It means that our hypothesis must be on theoretical guidelines that have been carried out previously.
The next material is hypothesis formulation technique. There are two hypothesis formulation techniques. First, observation, and second, theory. Observations to facilitate the process of forming a hypothesis. A researcher usually reduces a theory to a number of assumptions and postulates. These assumptions can be defined as assumptions or conjecture that underlie the hypothesis. In contrast to assumption, hypotheses that have been tested using data through the research process are the basis for obtaining conclusion. Theory. In addition to using theory as a reference in formulating a hypothesis, you can also use a fact reference. In general, facts can be defined as truth that can be accepted by reason and in accordance with facts that can be recognized by the five senses. The last is operational definitions or key terms. Operational definition of terms refers to detailed explanation of the technical terms and measurements used during data collection. This is done to standardize the data. Whenever data is being collected, it is necessary to clearly define how to collect the data. Well, that's all about our explanation and in this material. We are sorry for all mistake. Thank you for watching this video and thanks for your attention. And also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe this video. Okay, I think enough. See you in the next videos. Bye!